Hi, my name is Cameron Martin, and I'm a communication major here at UCSD. Today we have with us three professors from the communication department to tell us a little bit more about the craft. First, we have Professor Goldwasser, Professor Goldfarb, and Professor Hallin. Professor Goldwasser has a focus in media, culture, and language studies. Professor Goldfarb has a focus in pedagogy, disability, and visual studies. And finally, Professor Hallin has a focus in news, media, and politics around the world. Thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you.
Can you briefly explain about your research or at least your personal interest in it?
Yeah, so I study media and politics. I started out writing my dissertation about the media in the Vietnam War, and I have written a lot about the evolution of American journalism. And then at a certain point, I started getting interested in media and politics around the world. So a lot of my more recent work is comparative work about how the news media are different in different parts of the world and why they're different and how they relate to the political process. And I work particularly on Europe and Latin America.
My research is really based on ethnography. I work first in Trinidad and now in Central America with a group who also has a large community in LA. And most of my work has been with narrative and ritual and cultural traditions, folkloric traditions. But today you have to move into media studies and the use of media and the revitalization of the language. And I work with the Griffna community in Los Angeles in a school trying to keep their culture alive through traditions in the use of media.
Very cool. How about you, Professor Goldfarb?
I have a pretty interdisciplinary background. I started in the visual arts doing sculpture and media art and became involved in education and curating later on. I worked running the education program at the New Museum of Contemporary Art. And a lot of my work was involved with community-based media. And that is, and I was also teaching in the schools in New York City, and that's where I really became interested in the differences of abilities of people and the ways in which that got shaped by sort of cultural ideas and media. And so I sort of combine visual media with ideas about how we think about people's ability. And it's often called disability, but I'm thinking about ability more broadly.
How about, can you tell us about specific classes you enjoy teaching?
I teach courses in popular culture and folklore in a variety of classes. Right now I'm teaching a history, media, and popular culture that really is so pertinent today because popular culture is everywhere in our lives, and we have to learn to think more critically about it and how it shapes how we think, how we view our memories or view our histories, and how we behave in the world today and interact with others.
For sure.
I teach a class on the American news media, sometimes classes on Latin American and European news media. Right now I'm teaching a junior seminar on communication and health. I'm writing a book now with a friend who's a medical anthropologist about media coverage of health and medicine. And so, often we're working on a particular project, we develop a special class around that project. So that's what that class is.
Very nice.
Last couple of years, or last few years, I've been teaching the large intro class that all the comm majors have to do. And I've been enjoying that more than I thought I would because it gives me a chance to think about the perspectives the students get coming in and also wrap myself around what all the different people in the department are doing. But in terms of courses more focused on my own work and research, there's a course I've been doing since I came here 13 years ago called Digital Pedagogy. That's half practicum done in the schools and half seminar, and it's a class that's very gratifying. A lot of the students seem to get a lot out of it and come back to me years later and say it influenced what they did. And then I've been teaching courses around media and disability and care. It sort of connects a little bit with what Dan's working on, ideas about health, but how we think about care and caring. And I've really enjoyed that.
So a lot of UCSD students mistake the communication major as developing their social skills, such as public speaking and interpersonal communications. Why do you think that happens?
It's sort of funny, but I do think that we do develop those social and communication skills.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should say that we don't do that, but we do it within a context of reflection and critical understanding.
So the idea is to give a much broader perspective on processes of communication, how they change historically, how to think about them in a critical and creative way, how to innovate in the use of them. And in that way, we think that we give people a much more lasting foundation. And all the reading that you have to do, that's connected with developing the critical and creative faculty that you're going to need later on.
Definitely.
At the same time, we do that with an emphasis that we learn it at least in part, and sometimes significant part, through hands-on interaction. So although we're not teaching the vocational, one of the real strengths and things that students like about our department is the involvement in internships, the involvement in practicums, and even in the other courses, the opportunities to work multimodally. To, instead of doing a paper in some classes, they might do a performance, or they might develop a photo essay. So the variety of assignments we've been pushing out of saying, okay, this is just a production course, that production, or what we call practice, is sort of filtered into all of the courses.
So we're seeing a lot of what's in the communication department and how it sort of interacts with outside programs. How would you define the communication major for students who just see it on a piece of paper and think, oh, well, that must be public speaking? How would you define it?
It's very broad. Okay, that's the first thing to say. It focuses centrally on the various forms of media and the various kinds of technologies and symbol systems and so on that mediate human interaction with the world. Okay, so that ranges from language and visual images to technologies like radio and television and the internet and so on.
Yeah. It gives you that foundation critically thinking. And when you think about communication, think how broad that is, how many different ways we communicate through not just our language, but through technology, through the media. That's why it's so broad here. It has to be that interdisciplinary to address the importance of communication today.
I think that's it for our questions. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.